Imagine a mind so brilliant it basically reshaped every single field of mathematics. Now, imagine that same mind suddenly plunged into total darkness. This isn't some work of fiction. No, this is the absolutely astonishing true story of Leonhard Euler, a man whose greatest work really began the moment his world went black.
It's a question that just seems to defy all logic, right? I mean, to be a mathematician is to work with symbols, equations, visual proofs, all that stuff. So how on earth could someone at the absolute pinnacle of this field keep going, let alone actually speed up, after losing the one sense we all think is essential for it?
That's the number. Almost 400. That's how many books and papers Euler published after he went completely blind. That's nearly half of his entire life's work. Just let that sink in for a second. This wasn't a guy slowing down. This was an absolute explosion of creativity.
So, to really understand this incredible feat, we first have to understand the challenge he was up against. You see, his blindness wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a long, slow descent into darkness that had started decades earlier.
It all started way back in 1735. Intense, non-stop work, maybe an infection, we're not sure, but it cost him the sight in his right eye. For the next 30 years, he just kept going, earning the nickname the Mathematical Cyclops from King Frederick the Great. But then, in 1771, a cataract surgery went horribly wrong, and his world went dark for good. He was 64 years old.
And here is where the story takes this unbelievable twist. For most people, this would have been the end of their career, right? Well, for Euler, it was like a new beginning. It's almost as if losing his physical sight removed all the distractions of the outside world, forcing his mind to work on a purely conceptual level. His mathematical vision, it became sharper than ever.
So how did he do it? I mean, really, how? It wasn't magic. It was the result of a mind that had been honed to an almost superhuman degree, operating with a set of tools that, it turns out, just didn't require sight.
It really boiled down to three core abilities that he'd been cultivating his whole life. First, a memory that was just the stuff of legends. Second, a capacity for mental calculation that completely baffled everyone around him. And third, a super effective system for getting all those ideas out of his head and onto paper, through other people.
And when I say his memory was legendary, I mean it. We're not just talking about remembering a few formulas. The guy could recite Virgil's epic poem, the Aeneid. That's almost 10,000 lines of text, without a single mistake. He had vast tables of numbers just stored in his head, ready to go at a moment's notice. His mind was his library.
Get this. Picture two of his students arguing over the 50th decimal place in some super complex calculation. Euler, totally blind, just listens in, runs the entire calculation in his head from start to finish, and then calmly tells them the right answer. His mind was a blackboard more powerful than any real one.
His friend, the Marquis de Condorcet, just captured it perfectly. Euler's genius didn't need paper. All those complex, beautiful formulas that just poured out of him were creations of pure thought, fully formed in his mind long before they ever touched a pen.
So, with his memory as a library and his mind as a supercomputer, Euler didn't just keep working. He unleashed a total flood of discoveries that would go on to define math for the next century. The results were just staggering.
In the year 1775, while completely blind, Euler was producing, on average, one mathematical paper every single week. He was an absolute force of nature. Scribes and assistants would just write as he dictated, with his sons often helping to copy and prepare everything for publication.
His legacy from this period alone is just immense. He dictated the final volumes of his groundbreaking work on integral calculus, which is a cornerstone of modern analysis. And he also produced this comprehensive 2-volume textbook on algebra that became one of the most successful math books ever written.
And here's the kicker. He dictated that entire algebra book to a young guy who wasn't a mathematician at all. He was a tailor's apprentice. Euler figured that if he could explain these complex ideas so clearly that his scribe could get it, then anyone could. It just shows he wasn't just a genius of discovery, but a genius of teaching too.
You know, when you look back, Euler's final years, they weren't a tragedy, not at all. They were a testament to the incredible power of the human mind to overcome any obstacle. A final, brilliant act in an absolutely extraordinary life.
His mind just never stopped. On the very day he died, at 76 years old, he was still buzzing with curiosity. He was working out the math for the new hot air balloons that everyone in Europe was excited about. He was debating the orbital mechanics of the new planet Uranus, and he still made time to play with his grandchildren.
As he sat there with his family, he suffered a massive brain hemorrhage. And Condorcet's eulogy gives us this just perfect poetic line. For Euler, the act of thinking, of calculating, that was the act of living. When one stopped, so did the other.
His influence is almost impossible to overstate. A generation later, the great French mathematician Laplace would tell his students this. It was the ultimate stamp of approval, basically saying that to learn mathematics, you had to learn from Euler. He laid the groundwork for literally everyone who came after him.
Euler's story really forces us to ask this question, doesn't it? He showed us that the most profound limitations aren't physical. They're the ones we put on our own minds. In losing his sight, he taught the entire world how to see.